So, what's a thing as a child you grew up understanding and seeing throughout your family or with your friends that was something that you felt didn't need to happen or doesn't need to go on till this day as an adult that you don't want to bring into your family?
So here's the thing. I didn't understand none of that shit. I didn't, I was just, I was being an adult at a young age in a sense. So I didn't have any understanding what generational curses were, none of that stuff until later on in life, like as recently up until the past few years. So that's a good question to ask, but for that, I didn't know what that stuff was. I had any understanding what that was. Now, to go back to your question, now looking back, my I always noticed that my family on my mom's side of the family were not that close due to some things that happened in the past with the main source of the family, right? My grandpa and his four sisters. Something happened back in the day. Never understood it, but it basically split the family apart, and we're not as close as we should be as a family. There's a part of my family I grew up that was it was all in Arizona that we just don't know as well, right? In the sense of we don't hang out much, we don't really see each other much, and that is a curse, right? Because in a sense, it's like family should be together through thick and thin. And even during the rush times, this is when you should lean on family, but it's not really like that. On my pop side of the family, they're really close. I'm closer with them than I am my own blood family. And it's crazy that it's like that, but it is what it is. Not all the time that not everybody you call family is going to be blood family, right? But there's a lot of things that I didn't really understand what generational curses were or none of all that. And I haven't understood it until probably about 3 or 4 years ago and start doing my own research about it. And I was like, man, there's a lot of stuff I got told as a young man that I was carrying on into my adult life that I thought was okay, but it's realistically not. It's all trying to break the cycles. Once I went through my own spiritual growth and all that and trying to understand to break the cycles of generational curses, it's not easy, man. It's not. But if I think there's always that one, you get one or two family members within the same century or decades where they're like, no, I'm taking a stand on this stuff. And this is why, because I know that I can course correct.
Responses don't require reaction. And that's it. Also, they be like, what's up?
Yeah.
How you doing? Here and me, we got over there, but I'm right here. Yourself. You're trying to make yourself better each day. There's somebody out there fighting.
Like it was I forget because we were going through. I forgot what we were going through some inspection. He's like, it's gonna make you look fucking crazy. Sure enough, and she's like, she's like, freaking yoga.
Yeah.
That is a freaking 100%. All that stuff. That's all stuff. That's like appearance, small stuff. I heard.
All this, right? And that's fine. That's just in the sense of for me, from my standpoint, I don't know any self-made millionaires in my family. And I was talking to my mom about this. Like, I don't know any self-made. Like, hey, I made a mill. This is how you can do it. And I feel like that's like my journey. And there's a lot of things generational wise that I was still doing that was bad, that I didn't know was bad in a sense because I was told this was okay. This is how you're supposed to act. And this is how you're supposed to do. Come from being an Alexander and da, 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 da. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm going to keep doing that. And that alone probably low key was diminishing me and not setting me up in life the way I should have been as a man. But it also paved the way for the man I am now. Right. So I just had that understanding behind it. These are all generational curses that I could have realistically paid attention to, but I didn't know what none of that stuff was. I had to go, you have to go through what you got to go through in life. But now I'm like, okay. So now I got my son, Josiah. I want him to understand, okay, this is the things you don't do in life, and these are why, and here's why. And give him all the answers so that way he doesn't have to go through the pain and sediment. Like I just seen a video where it was a grandfather holding a rock, and he passed it down to his son. And then it was a great grandfather holding the rock. Then he passed it on to his son. And then the grandfather passed it down to his son. And then his son passed on. And then the son, it was like fourth, it was a grandfather, a son, and then another son, right? When the dad got the rock, instead of giving the son the rock, he tossed it and gave him a crown. And that's how I feel. I've been carrying rocks And I don't want to give those rocks to Josiah. I want to give him a crown. And that's where I think the term, the generational curse comes in, with that. So that way he doesn't get all the bad stuff that I was told, in a sense of how to be, how to live, and how to act as a man. I want to give everything to him the right way as best as I can. So what about for you, man? What are some, and we're going to get some more into this. This is actually a good topic because there's a lot of things that, but for you, what are some generational curses from your family that you notice or understand, or whatever, however your journey played out, that you didn't know was bad and all this other stuff, whatever? What are some generational curses that you noticed growing up?
To talk about it, my dad was there to tell me, hey, look, you shouldn't do a lot of things, because he was out there a little bit in the streets when he was growing up. So he never wanted me and my sisters in the streets. And so we would have family meetings and stuff like that. He would always say this: you don't have to go too far to see the things that you want to see in life, because they're all in the family. You can look at either side of the family and see the bad things that are happening. You don't have to go out there and try it. And my wholehearted belief, yes, there's a lot of things you shouldn't go try, because there's times when he would tell me not to do things, and I would go out there and do them, and it would not be bad. It would be simple stuff sometimes, because I wouldn't get to the bad stuff. He did, because we used to ride, he and I used to ride bikes all the time, because we only had one vehicle, and my mom would have the vehicle be with girls, and it'd be me and him. So if I wanted to go with him, I had to ride the bike. So I get on a bike. We're over in my grandmother's neighborhood one time, and we're at one of his friend's house, and he did something on his bike, did this cool trick. And I would always be with my dad, because I love my dad, and I always wanted to be like him. And my dad looked at me, because he saw it in my face. He was like, "Don't be this, because you're gonna hurt yourself." And 5, 10 minutes went by when he wasn't looking, and he was talking to his friends. Went, did the thing, boop, got a seat up my butt, got a bike seat up my butt. He's like, "I told you not to do it. I bet you hurt yourself." And I'm like, "Nah, I'm fine. I'm tough." Woo.
Kept up with a
Um,
seat of your butt. What?
yeah, you can't really be tough with a seat up your butt. And that might not seem like a thing that people be like, "Oh, that's not generational curse. You're not listening." No, because my dad literally tried to stop certain things, because he saw the behavior, the route that I was going with my behavior, and not listening and doing the same thing was the same things he was doing growing up. Wasn't listening to the simple things. The simple thing, not listening to the simple things, turned into him not listening to the big things, and then going out and doing bad things and doing X, Y, and Z and stuff like that. Where it comes in at is the discipline versus talking and get a spanking. To me, yes, a spanking is different than somebody abusing someone, right? A spanking gets the point across, hey, look, there's consequences to your actions. Versus, because everybody's not going to talk to you. Certain situations, yes. Hey, should we talk to our kids and explain why you should do that? Yeah, 110%. Hey, why you should put your hand on the stove is because you're going to burn yourself. Not, oh, you burn yourself and then you get a beating because you put your hand on the stove as well. So now you got to burn, and now you got a bruised butt. But one of the biggest things my dad, he tried to break, was that we used to have family discussions. Every Sunday, we used to have family discussions. And we would sit there and talk about our week and what was going on, the things that he wanted us to know, because he didn't really have that growing up, right? He wanted us to be functional people in society. He wanted great things for us. He wanted us to go to college, right? Because he didn't go to college and my mom didn't go to college. He wanted us to go to college. Don't get me wrong. I want to say 2 out of the 4 of us have higher degrees and certifications. And that's my sisters. Me, I'm just a regular guy that's in the Navy doing things.
Oh my God. They don't sleep on that. You understand?
But that's the other thing too, right? To stop certain things, like I say, to stop certain things, to stop certain dysfunction, because that's what he was about. He talked to us about that all the time. He talked to us about the dysfunction in the family, because it doesn't matter which side of the family. When we got together, it was starting off fine, And then next thing you know, somebody will bring up something from the past and everybody's arguing. And then it'll trickle down to the kids. And some of the stuff now, like amongst the cousins, some of the stuff has trickled down to us, but we try to be more cooperative and more understanding with each other and talk to each other about it versus the way our parents handled things. Right? That's the biggest thing. Me personally, I want kids, but I don't want to have kids and go through take them through the struggle that I went through as growing up. I don't want them growing up not knowing who, at least now, my mother is, because my father's dead and my grandparents, they're gone on both sides of the family. And I think my great grandparents are as well. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. My great grandparents are gone as well on both sides of the family. So the only person, eventually, when I do have kids, will be my mother that's left. Now, can I speak on my great grandparents, my grandparents, and my father? Yes, I can always speak and be like, hey, these were the people, this is time we spent together. These are the things that were taught, these were the things that were learned. But yeah, I would do a lot of things different from the way I grew up. And that was part of the reason why I joined the military, was to break that cycle. Because I did go to college for a year. I didn't like it. And it was like, I want to travel and see the world. This would be my way to travel and see the world. And then maybe I can go back to school and then get all that out the way. But yeah, 110%. I want to be one of those people in my family, because I have a few people in my family who have their own businesses, who made themselves big and successful. And I want to be one of those people. And I talk to them and I ask them, how do you do it? Or I just watch them afar and be like, oh man, this is how you do it. They have the spontaneity. They keep pushing forward no matter what happens. And that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing I can learn. And the other thing too is, don't wallow in the past. If something happened, it happened, depending on how bad it was. Pick up the pieces and move forward. It's not like you should forget what happened in that situation, but you can't use it as an excuse of not moving forward every time.
True. Like you, like I do have a couple family members. Like I know, like my cousin Oogie, he had a barbershop and all. I remember growing up, and then he had a barbershop and a couple other things going on between him and his pops and stuff. But yeah, I don't like. I also really like, in a sense, like that's my mom's first cousin, not necessarily mine, in that sense. So like, I don't really know them that well. But as far as coming to the military, I am the first. That's a generational curse. So majority of the men in my family have all been in the military. Even my great grandfather Alexander, he was in World War II, I believe. But I'm the first to do 20 years in the military, and luckily, thank God, I was able to at least put on khakis. But I also got forged a lot of stuff to me as a young man. Others here in Alexander say, you know, the Alexander man do this, and Alexander, which probably didn't build the best characteristics in me. Understanding, like I was told, you come from a family of hustlers, pushers, and pimps type thing. I was like, what? So in my mind, I was building the character of myself.
Did you just try to say pimps and then just glide by it? You
yeah, because I'm not. I'm just saying, just understanding how Alexander Man moved and all this stuff, having multiple women and all this stuff. And it was like, this is my mom showing me this stuff. And just because she was the only girl in the family. So all her cousins were boys. Like my mom grew up hustling and all this other stuff. But still, like I had this misconstrued conception of what it was to actually be a man living in his truth. And I wasn't, man, because at the end of the day, man, like I built characteristics in me based off stories told of how Alexander Man is supposed to act. And then at the end of the day, I had to rebuild myself because of it. And that's okay. Like I have no qualms with that. But like it's also breaking curses and like understanding like why these like why certain things in my family are like it, because in a sense, Alexander men don't act the best because of we're still living off past history and knowledge, right? And what's the term in the Navy when you don't live off tribal knowledge? That's basically what it lived off of. And like, you got to find your own truth. And so I kind of started finding my own truth and figure out who I always knew who I was and who, but I didn't. Once I started going on my spiritual journey, I was like, I pretty much folded everything I learned. I was like, nah, I can be better. So now I'm just at a place where everything that I've learned, I just want to pass on to you so he doesn't have to go through the same struggles and have a better understanding of life and what he should be as what he actually should be as a man, not just Alexander, man, but as a man growing up in this world, and just be upstanding, upholding, and keep your faith in God, and keep him number one over everything, and everything else will fall suit. I didn't really have that understanding until later on in life, and that's fine. I've gone in and out through my own stuff, but the generational curses that I would like to definitely beat now is one, being a artist of self and millionaire. I think also two is being truthful in everything. We grew up with our parents in generations where everything was secretive, everything. You like your parents will hold bar on a lot of secrets, and they would think that it's okay. It's all good until stuff actually hits the fan. And then you're like, why is my kid like this? You're like, you kept this from for so many years. And then now you know what I mean? It is what it is, but I don't really want to hold secrets. I mean, now, is there a point where there's times where for Josiah doesn't need to know certain things? Yes. Right now he's a kid. He's about to be 8. There's things in life he doesn't even know. But there's a point in time where I'm going to sit down and tell him like, hey man, this is what happened. This is why things were like this. This is what was going on. He needs to know those things. So then that way I can sit down and so he can, as he moves and continues and grows on with life, he doesn't have to live through that and go through those pains and heartaches for no reason, because I told him the struggles that I went through. You know what I mean? I never really had, that sit down.
And you want to know the hard part is about it is a lot of times, even if you have those sit downs, even if you have those talks, because I can tell you 110%, my dad, when he was alive, he used to have talks with me all the time and be like, I get what you're saying, but
I mean, yeah,
I'm
you're
going
going to,
I want to understand it. And I get what you're saying. And that's what helped me prepare me for certain things. Because in certain situations, a lot of those conversations came up and it popped in my head like, oh yeah, that's why I shouldn't have did it. Oh yeah, this is the reason this is the reason why he said he didn't do it. It might have not exactly happened the way he said it would, but it happened. It went down that route. And you know, another generational curse we should break as men, period. It's just as men across the board. It doesn't matter who you are, what race or ethnicity, whatever your belief is, that we should tell boys that they don't have feelings.
yeah. Another thing is too, start being so hard nosed. If you got a son, man, still give him affection, man. I still fucking give my son affection, man. He needs to know that his dad loves him. Granted, like I grew up like, all right.
Nah, but they also need to know that, hey, it's all right to cry. It's all right to express yourself. It's all right to say how you feel without blowing up, right? Yeah, don't get me wrong. There's times and places for you to let it all out. And a big thing about that, and I'm not saying meter your emotions, but it's also great to express and be able to express your feelings. And we need to break that curse with women as well. When we have little girls, oh yeah, men shouldn't express their feelings and blah blah blah. And then you get in a relationship and you tell a woman, she actually is like, how you feeling? You're telling her how you actually feel. And then she's, if I wanted a soft man, I would have got with my girlfriend or somebody like that. Don't ask the question if you don't want to hear it. See, we gotta break curses like that. This little stuff that we're talking about amongst ourselves, yes, we need to break curses amongst ourselves that we were taught in our family. Once again, one day we're gonna touch back on that whole pimp thing, and I really want to know. But the biggest thing we don't have to talk about it on here. We don't. But the biggest thing we need to do is those general things across the board for both men and women is literally, hey, men should be able to teach their sons, hey, look, it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel how the way you feel. It's okay to talk about the way you feel without being persecuted. Hey, it's okay for your brother, your man, your husband, your son to talk about that. And I'm going to raise you as my daughter to understand that, hey, you should let your son express his feelings, talk about it, get it out, right? You should let your husband, if you ask him the question, hey, how's your day? What's going on with you? You don't seem the same. And then and vice versa. Men should be taught, hey, look, listen to your woman, X, Y, and Z. Let her express herself. Say the piece. There's a difference of you saying how you feel and expressing yourself then, oh, every time I get drunk, I just kiss people. Okay, there's a problem. There's an issue.
Well, it's
You
like that
want to
video
talk
I
about
seen.
it if you.
Men are always taught how to treat women, but women aren't taught how to treat men.
Because a lot of them got bald headed daddies that take care of them.
No, man. I mean, if you think about
But
it,
then also too, a lot of those men, and don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying it's all of them, a lot of those men that treat their daughters the way they do are the ones trying to make up for their past or what they did to the women along the way.
yeah, yeah, and I understand all of that, but it's like at the same time, that's when you get these. The comparison is the thief of happiness, but that's when you get these women always trying to compare other men to their dad or whatever, and you got. That's where you get all these complexes from. Where fuck it, I could just be independent and all this other stuff. We have gotten so far from the way men and women being together. It's crazy to me that we need each other. God put us on this earth for us to fester and grow and build families and all this stuff. And we've gotten so far away from it
But
because of things like that. And it's a
that's another
curse.
generation of cursing.
It's a
That's another
curse, man.
generation of
It's a
cursing.
curse. Even my mom said it. My grandparents, they divorced. And my mom's like, I just wanted to make it through. And my parents have been married 30 something years. And I've watched all their trials and tribulations, especially when they first got married. Especially my pops isn't, he's not my real dad and stuff, but he raised me, man. I love him to death, man. But I watched all their trials and tribulations when they first got married and was dating and all that stuff. And I've seen all that stuff, and they still made it through. And they're now, I feel like the whole happily married term doesn't really happen until after the first 20. I feel like the first, it's just, this is just my personal, this is my
The
personal
first
opinion, bro.
20.
I swear to God, bro. I swear to God. I didn't really see, I swear to God, I didn't really see my parents really getting happy together until probably after the 15 to 20 year mark. It was weird. I don't know. They I knew they loved each other, but they still had I could tell they had their moments when you could just feel the vibe around the house and something's off. Right. But I feel like stuff really didn't start getting better until later on in life. And but they still stuck it out through the worst parts. You get what I'm saying? They had that. All right, we're just, and it's hard to break that curse. That's a curse. It's hard to break. You got, at the end of the day, you got to sit down and be like, can I really do this with this person for the rest of my life? Are they really going to change? Are they really trying to grow?
You want to understand what's crazy about that? What's crazy about that when you say things like that? A lot of these people who do that comparison and they're looking to recreate what they saw as a child from their parents didn't see the full picture. Because I can tell you for a fact, I was one of those people. I remember things happening, but I remember my parents sticking through it no matter what happened. Right? There were things that went on in the house, and it did. And my thing was, you know what? I should be married by 23, 24 years old. Because guess what? My parents did it. They were married by 22, 23, something around that age. And I was like, I need to be married by then. I need to have my first child and X, Y, and Z, because once you do it young and you get it out the way, guess what? Everything just works out. But that was the craziest thing to me looking back on it, because I've never experienced what I was barely in the Navy. I was barely in the Navy because I joined at 19. But all I do my whole life was going from where I grew up in Louisiana to maybe a couple places in Texas, a few places in Mississippi. That's all I knew of the world. But I knew I wanted to travel the world. And then when I started traveling the world, it started opening my eyes to different things and seeing different ways. And it's, oh, okay, I might not be ready yet. And for a long time, that failed me in a lot of my relationships because I had the mindset of, oh, this is the way my parents did it and handled it. Okay, cool. Well, hey, look, if we can't talk about it, then what are we doing? Or some relationships, literally, some of my parents not talk to each other for days on hand because somebody did something stupid. And that's how I handle some of my relationships. Do I regret that? Yeah. I regret that because there's better ways to handle situations. Because that's all we see as kids. Okay, cool. My parents did this and they're still together 20 some odd, 30 some odd years later. My mom and dad obviously not together because my dad's dead, but they made it 23 years before he died. They were together 23 years before he died. And my mom talks to me about these things, even though, like I said, I grew up watching them and seeing certain things and certain things that happened. And she would tell me some other stuff. And I'm like, I do vaguely remember that. And I understand that. That's crazy. That's crazy. And looking back on it, on some of my relationships, I could have handled a lot of situations better. I could have, instead of shutting down and not talking about it, talk about it, have the discussion, explain why this made me feel angry, explain why I didn't like something that happened, explain why I didn't talk to you or call you for days on hand because I was at work or whatever, or I could explain something better. And that's all it is sometimes for a lot of us is we're trying to emulate our parents, emulate relationships, and that's what we mess up at instead of going into a relationship better than what they did. Don't get me wrong. There's some people out here that's been married. I saw a couple that was married for 60 years and just
Whatever.
being nasty.
I get
They
what
was
you
still
said.
being
Man. I get what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. I agree with what I agree with what you're saying. For me, it wasn't necessarily I need to do exactly what my parents did. In my head, because the way I've seen it and how I see my parents move, my thing was like, all right, once I get married, we're just gonna work through we're gonna work through all the hard times, all the good times, all of that. It wasn't like I need to emulate their marriage. It was more like, okay, once I'm married, that's it. We're just gonna work through this. We'll figure this out through whether it's through silence, to fix communicate, like all that stuff. That's what I've seen. I didn't want to emulate their marriage. Like,
silent.
no, what I'm saying is I've seen where my parents haven't talked to each other. And I was like, oh, so that's what I'm saying. It's like, work through all the hard and difficult times, right? Eventually you got to talk. I'm like, all right, let's figure this out, right? That's how I looked at it. I didn't want to emulate because they got married in their, when did they get, I think they got married. Let's see, how I was already, shit. They might have got us married around the same time I got married. Realistically, now I'm thinking about it, but I just didn't see it that way. But now that I'm thinking about it, they might have got married around the same time. They really might have got married. I got to ask my mom how old was when her and my pops got married. But because I was, and mind you,
consciously got married the same age or
now that I'm thinking about it, I might low key it might have done it. But my parents, like how I seen them is versely different between how my brother seen them. You get what I'm saying? Because I was already around, and EJ was born when I was 6 going on 7. But so it's to watch them. It's beautiful to watch them go through all that, and then now they're doing things that they wanted to do. My parents just went snorkeling took their first cruise and went snorkeling for the first time. Do all these things through all the pain and all the hardship and all that. They still pushed through and stayed together and didn't give up on each other through everything, right? And I got to watch all that. And I tell my mom and dad, like I tell them, I'm proud of them. At the end of the day, I'm like, I don't want to emulate your guys' marriage, but I understand what it means to stick through the hard times, right? I think a lot of couples don't have that. Even when instead of just sitting down and talking through it, there's no more of that. Let's just stick through the hard time. My parents come from that hard nose. We're going to stick it through the hard times. Unless shit is just dire straight that bad. But my parents have stuck it through the hard times, and now things are really, really good for them later on in life. They didn't give up on each other. And it's kind of great to see. And that's all my thing is like, let's just stick it through the hard times, no matter what that's like. Mind you, they grew up in the times where motherfuckers come home with kids and shit, like from a whole nother woman type shit. Yeah, that's the generation that
we not
you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm just saying
my business.
I'm just saying that's the generation that our parents grew up in. Men would have a whole other families down the block, and it's crazy. But I 100% am. I'm 100% with. I'm 100% with just sticking it through. If we have a conversation, it's like, all right, we're both burnt the candles on both ends and nothing's really happened. I get it, but there's always a way. But to break generational curses, sometimes you do got to stick it through because you're being tried. It's like, all right, do you really want to do this? All right, so you're going to get forces trying to keep pressing on you. And sometimes you just got to stand strong. You know what? We can do this. We can do this together. We can fight through it. We can talk. People got to get that that back behind them. Don't be scared to stand on your business for what you believe in. And I think a lot of people now, it's just because of reality TV and all this other stuff. Oh, let's just file for divorce, whatever. Now, obviously, unless your spouse does something egregious, like I said, egregious to the point where it has diminished the family name, right? I kind of get it where you're like, yo, I can't be you fucking went out and killed such and such or whatever. But other than that, man, like if thug it out. But like I said, I understand certain things. Some people don't have that same mentality, and I can't do this. It's too taxing. It's too much, whatever. But I think in the end, if you do decide, when you do decide to actually both stick through and you can break a lot of curses, even the ones that you guys have put up yourselves. You can break through all that stuff. But that's just me.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on it. But
That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing.
Well,
With some generational curses that you have and you notice throughout your family or throughout that you're doing now that you would like to break? What is something that you would like to stop doing? That's the biggest thing. Look at it. Look at yourself.
100% stepping out. Stepping out is definitely one that I had to learn the hard way, right? If you guys know what I mean by that, then you figure that out yourself. But that was something that was like I said, learning what Alexander Man was and
Papa was a
what it is to do. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Where his hat was his home.
And then living the sailor lifestyle didn't really help neither. But I can say that it's at the end of the day, it's not worth it. It's not hurtful. And then too, when you get further down into wherever journey you're at in life, it's fucking nasty. Like messing around with a bunch of different women, it says a lot about yourself and your sensibility. Same thing with a woman too. In my terms, the way I see it, every man and woman, I don't care what you say, goes through the good old hoe phase in a sense, right? Everybody does. You can't. It's the way I see the world. You do, especially too. I think women are, in my personal opinion, do it more, especially after a bad breakup. They're like, fuck it, I'm thugging it out. But at the end of the day, that is one that that's a lesson learned. So now when I talk to Josiah, I'm like, hey man, don't be out here playing like that because it can fuck around and hurt you. Another one I'm fighting through is just understanding what building generational wealth looks like. Not building finances and working on finances, but how to build and understand what building generational wealth looks like, right? Learning about getting life insurance policies and stuff for your family. So that way when you die, there's money left over to the family. Those are all little things that I feel, at least in my family, wasn't really talked about. And that stuff is talked about, like actually building wealth and finances and that stuff. And I'm trying to learn all this stuff. So when I can sit down and have these talks with Josiah, like, no, these are things you need to start doing now as a young man to help your future out. I feel like it's such an empty topic, and especially in Black households. I think now with social media, people are trying to get better understanding, but really looking down to sit down and do all that stuff and building wealth and building a better future after you for future generations is something I'm really trying to work on. Even stepping out right now, even doing this stuff, put my face in the public eye. Like this is all stuff, like I said, come from a very secretive family, generations of secrets. Now I'm just kind of living in my truth and being open, and I don't really care. I'm still private in a sense, right? I don't want all my business out there, like family business, right? But for the most part, I'm an open book. You can talk to me about anything. So I think those are things I'm working on right now. And then what else? Oh, like actively, like actual self-care, and not just, oh, I go to the gym, but you grew up from the generation, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You ain't that hurt. You good. So
rub some dirt on
it. Yeah, rub some dirt on it.
Like,
yeah, nah, bro, like I'm hurt. I need to go to see the doctor. Like my shit hurt. Like I grew up in that mindset. So trying to break that too. Like, hey, if you actually hurt, go to the doctor. Don't just cover that shit up because it can pay off in the long run, right? Like where you're like now, because you didn't do that 40 years ago, you can't walk 60 years later or something like that. But those are the things I'm really working on. But other than that, man, you got any that you're working on actively?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm working on communication. That's my biggest thing is communicating. And then the whole thing, I want to say I take away from my parents' marriage, and my father told me, no matter how mad you get, y'all need to talk. You need to talk it out, figure it out. Don't ignore each other. Don't let it sit there and fester. You don't have to scream and shout, but you need to talk it out. Because I knew one thing that they used to do was they didn't let us know what the problems were or how bad things were a lot of the time.
Yeah.
They literally, sometimes when, I can say this for me, I can't say it for my sister, but I can say this for me. I didn't understand until I started getting older and making my own money and stuff like that. A lot of the things that I shouldn't have acted out on. I remember one time I wanted to go to the carnival in town, and my mom worked at the same school I went to. We were in gym, we were little kids. And all the kids got together. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to the carnival. Hey, how much you going? Hey mom, can I go to the carnival with them? And she didn't want to embarrass me by saying no, but she wanted to be real with it. She was like, "Nah, we can't do that right now. Maybe next weekend." And I was like, "The guys are going here. I want to go with the guys. You got Look, we'll talk about it when we get home." If you didn't have the money, wasn't making the money like that, because there would be times where we were on top. My dad had a job, and it was a good job and stuff like that before things would happen, layoffs would happen, and then we'll be back at the bottom or beneath the bottom sometimes. But really never understood that until I started getting older in age and realizing, like, why are we going through these influxes? Why do we have cable this spanner for 3 months, and then next thing you know, we don't got cable?
Yeah.
Things like that. And not trying to be a bratty child. When I started realizing it, it was like, oh, okay, cool. Need to need to
Yeah.
break that. That's why that's the biggest thing. Like I said, I don't want to put my kids through that. I want them to understand. Don't get me wrong, I'll explain certain things to them. Yeah, you will see it. You will see certain things, but you, the biggest thing where I feel like people feel it, like when you talked about this, the great grandfather had the boulder. It went down to the grandfather, it went down to the father who stopped it from getting to the child. The
Yeah.
problem I see with that is it goes with this saying, hard times make strong men. No way was it. Hard times make strong men, peace times make weak men. And when things happen and you're not prepared for it, I'm not saying, oh yeah, hey, you need to grow up in the struggle. Some rich people, some rich kids as we see on TV and we see throughout life, oh, I'm from the trenches. You didn't grow up in the trenches. Your dad grew up in the trenches. They try to keep that life away from y'all. But they want to grow up in the trenches so bad. It's like they want to emulate something that they know nothing about. Don't get me
Right.
wrong. If and it's not an if. I'm keep my kids away from growing up in the hood, but I'm gonna have them understand, like, hey, look, this is what this is. This is where you don't want to go. Because hey, this is what happens. Not by It's for a lot of people, it's not by choice. But then a lot of people get stuck there by choice. It's by the choices that you make.
No,
So
100%. I'm just gonna say this.
that's the biggest thing is, hey, yo, look, check this out. Pay attention to your decision making skills. Yeah, you're gonna make mistakes. Yes, you're gonna fail. You're not always gonna succeed, but that doesn't mean give up or get comfortable in your situation, because at any point in time, your situation can change in the next hour.
Yeah. I'm just gonna end on this with what you're talking about as far as the image that we were talking about. Yes, I'm giving Josiah a crown, but I don't have to give him all. I don't have to give him all the curses that I've already lived through. I can just give him the story so he has understanding. But he's gonna have his own. I hope that he has his own trials and tribulations to figure it out. Like you said, like I live out in the suburbs. I grew up. My dad moved. We moved. Me and my brother grew up in the suburbs, but we still have our own trials and tribulations that we're learning through, right? I agree with you wholeheartedly, but that's built me to be a better man, right? Because of those trials and tribulations that I've had. It's built my brother to be a better man because of the trials and tribulations. So I hope that even though we're out in the suburbs, Josiah may have his own trials and tribulations that he goes through, but he doesn't have to go through starting from the bottom. He's going to start,
Yeah,
I believe even rich kids, like you hear stories of rich kids getting all their inheritance and then going broke. That's a trial and tribulation. Nobody taught them
yeah,
how to manage their money fully. You know what I mean? But you don't have to, don't, like you said, don't fake it if you're from the trenches, because you fuck around, some real shit will happen, your ass to get killed. And you're like, damn, why'd I come
yeah.
down here? The streets ain't meant for everybody. And if you don't have that keen sense of freaking common sense, that eats you alive. But other than that, man, I got nothing else for this episode, man. This is a good conversation. We can go on about this, man. We'll bring this back up later on in a future episode. But other than that, you got anything?
Hey, share, subscribe, keep coming back for the entertainment. Keep coming back for the love. Keep coming back for the words of positivity. Like we talked about, some people get in the camera like this. Hey, come here. Let me come to you. Grumpy Gills, baby. Kickbacks. You
Right
love
there.
us. You know you do. You know you love us because we grew on you. We grew on you.
Whoa, pause.
We're like moss on trees. You get a laugh. Then you get some seriousness. And then you're like,
God.
what's wrong with these guys? They go back and
These back-
forth. Are
these-
they really friends? Yes,
These
yes, we're
backward
really
metaphors. like moss on a tree.
Somebody grew up in
Hey,
the
hey, you
desert.
like-
I don't really care.
Hey,
it's none of my
man,
business.
you like dirt on a
Mind
rock.
your
Man.
business.
We like dirt on a rock.
But with that being said, much love. Appreciate y'all. As always, Grumpy Gills out.
Love, peace, chicken grease.
Love, peace, chicken grease. We out.